Value is the language of business. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Bocci. I help lead a research and customer executive advisory group here at Citrix. And the topic of today's session is just how I opened, value. We're going to hear from both one of my peers in Citrix's own value advisory org, Biz Debnath, as well as one of our product managers for Workspace, Barry O'Reilly, about what this all means in the context of Workspace. But first, I'm going to talk about engagement. Employee engagement is a hot topic, and for good reason, because there's tremendous business value. In fact, studies have shown that engaged employees generate 81% higher customer satisfaction scores. And there's an ever-growing mountain of research that keeps pointing to the fact that if you want happy customers and business growth, you're going to need engaged employees. And with engaged employees, there's another important benefit. You also see half the employee turnover. And a study showed that for every 1% increase in turnover in an average company, you get a 40% drop in productivity overall and 26% less profit overall. And those are really shocking numbers. But one of the other key dynamics here is that engaged employees dip into something called discretionary effort. A fantastic IBM and Global Force study showed that 95% of employees reporting a positive experience with their company say they expend discretionary effort, which means that they engage in activities that are beneficial to their organization, but aren't necessarily part of their jobs. And that number drops to the floor for those reporting a poor experience. And discretionary effort, when you think about it, it can mean the difference between typical and extraordinary business results. It's also where innovation happens. So let's talk more about engagement. It's the outcome of a continued positive employee experience. And so in order to see the benefits and value that I just spoke of, companies need to focus on that daily employee experience, which is shaped not just by culture, but also technology and physical space. And that's one of the reasons companies are turning to Citrix, as we can help them with one of those most critical pieces, and that's helping their employees find progress every day or their personal productivity. In fact, research has shown that even more than pay, perks, bonuses, those extrinsic things that, of course, they're the reason why we work, but it turns out to human beings, they're not the most important thing. And that's our ability to make progress in our work every day. So when you think about that, technology plays an outsized role in our work, our ability to get work done or not every single day. So let's take a look at this in the context of somebody's day at work. So it's a mess of distraction, frustration, and roadblocks. And sadly, this is a normal day for a lot of us and the employees that we serve. And whether it's the unintended consequences of things like distractions from instant messaging and chats, but also the iffy performance from apps delivered on-premise or hybrid or cloud, multi-cloud environments, it makes it truly hard for somebody to get into that flow zone and be productive every day. And the reason why I just talked about this was sometimes issues like this fly under the radar. And in some of the projects that we're developing and launching, they get dismissively labeled as some of the soft benefits. But now I'm going to bring in my colleague Biz to not only talk more tangibly and how we can talk more tangibly about employee effectiveness and value, but also shine a light on Citrix's own approach to working with our customers to help them identify, track, and communicate value in their organizations. I'm now joined by one of my close partners from our value advisory team, Biz Debnath. Biz, before we get started, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for inviting me to Converge 2021. As Chris mentioned, my name is Biz Debnath. I work in value engineering within strategic advisory of Citrix. But my background is really in business transformation and business reengineering as it pertains to technology. So that's what I really specialize in. How does technology help business?
Yeah. And I'm going to brag for Biz a little bit. He's not going to say this himself, but he is a doctor of value, and it's just such a treat to have him here. So thank you, Biz. So I want to drill down first into the gap that we help customers with and essentially why we're here in this presentation today. So maybe tell the audience a little bit about that business and technology gap.
So really, what is a business trying to do when it implements a technology? It's actually trying to get a technological gain and competitive advantage, right? So it's trying to transform their business in a way. Now, transformation depends on its people doing things in a new way. All right. Now, if those people in the business aren't leveraging the technology and doing things in a new way, i.e., there's a lack of adoption, then you really don't get the change that you desire. It's only when they do things in a new way and there is maximum adoption of the technology and new ways of working, do you get a real transformation. So the gap here you see between the blue line and the dotted red line is the loss in a business when it does not implement technology well. So what we're trying to do at Citrix is to make sure that we lead more with the transformational element than implementing solutions that lead to no adoption.
I love it. So, we talk about this sometimes in terms of two sides, effectiveness and efficiency. Can you just walk us through what we mean by that?
Sure. When you look at traditional IT implementation and you see how traditionally technology has been implemented, they focus on what they call total cost of operation, right? So how does it impact IT area? So IT efficiency. Does it help implement, and does it help with security and data protection? Does it help to reduce cost with hardware and software, so the infrastructural impact? Or does it help to reallocate infrastructure, so data centers and things like that? That's where we looked at traditionally. But Citrix looks at that as well as what is the impact on business, the people that are going to be using that technology. Does it help them from a security posture standpoint? Does it create additional margin on revenue by improving ways of working through the use of technology? And if you do all of those kind of things, then employees are a lot happier in the business. So because their experience is better. So does that then help towards helping that organization becoming more an environment where people like to work and an employer choice, as you might say?
That's a great explanation. So let's talk about the vision. And what I mean by this, and for the audience, when we're engaging with a customer in a business assessment and a value engagement, what's our aim? What are we looking to do?
So through the implementation of technology, what we're really looking to impact is, can we help the organization obtain some of its strategic intent, some of its strategic goals, right? And in order to get to the strategic goals, we need to be changing ways of working of their people within the processes. So what operational elements can we help to address? What are those pain points within operation that we can remove and eradicate? If you do that, focus on the operational element, you'll see that you're heading towards the company's strategic goals, right? You're helping them to address the strategic goals. And then if you do that and you understand the pain points that you're resolving and the issues around that you're resolving, you'll automatically be able to quantify those elements. So really, from a strategic standpoint, we're trying to address the organizational goals by addressing the operational issues. And if we quantify that, we'll be able to get the financial impact of that. So here you see 4 circles: strategy, operation, technology, and financials. Technology is what we're trying to implement with the client by impacting operation and thereby attaining their strategic goal. And by doing that, automatically we'll have a financial ROI.
Excellent. So, sometimes we hear, and this is, again, a big thrust of us doing this session here today is, customers looking to do this themselves. And let's talk a little bit about how Citrix approaches these engagements and what they look like, just to set up some of the expectations about, a bird's eye view into the process.
Sure. So it all starts off with planning. In planning, we're looking at what is the overall scope of the engagement? What areas are in scope? What business units are in scope? What business units are not? And there you're really having a frank discussion with the client in terms of your use cases and so on and so forth, and where those use cases are going to be impacting. And what you're doing, you're trying to broaden the field of vision, not just for yourself, but for the client. Right? That's where you're setting up for workshops and things like that. And then you move into the engagement. That's where you're actually running the workshops and interviews. And there's a standard way that we run those things. Now, the important thing to know about the engagement phase is there are problems that the client knows about and there are problems that the client doesn't know about. So through those workshops, we're more able to identify the problems that they're not aware of, as well as validate the problems that they were aware of. And then we move into the, once we've done that, we get lots of data out of those workshops. And that's where we analyze that data and synthesize that data to create what we call the ROI picture. What does the value look like if we resolved some of those pain points that we identified in the engagement phase? And then obviously we present back. But the most important thing during the engagement analysis phase is the validation you do with your client and sponsors. And that is really merely to make sure whatever you're presenting is not a total surprise to them or things that they vehemently challenge. You want to make sure that what we present is insightful to them and they agree logically. So validation during the engagement analysis phase is a key element.
I love it. That's a great description. Now, I think it's great you just started to talk a little bit about the who and setting expectations. Let's talk about some of the potential interviews, that we might target or that our audience might target as they're embarking on this similar journey.
Great point, Chris. Well, firstly, we would like to understand what is the objective? Why are they wanting to do this from a leadership perspective? So whoever is the budget holder or whoever is the significant person in the organization driving this change, be that at the C level or the SVP level or the VP level, we want to be able to talk to them about what are their goals, what are they wanting to do in this project. So the leadership area is a key area. Then, as we mentioned, that it is about technology. So we need to understand from the technology landscape, what are the issues? So we need to talk to people that run the application, people manage data centers and so on and so forth. We talk to them about what are some of the challenges and the issues that they're facing. But last but not least is really the user, which they are at the heart of it. Which departments are going to be impacted by this, which divisions are going to be impacted. So we talk to them and understand some of their problem. This is the key area that we need to run workshops in. So we understand their problem, their challenges, and those are really the three key stakeholder groups that we need to talk to.
Yeah, you just ran through that perfectly. And, I would add something that we've seen as well is that sometimes there exists a gap between end users and leadership. You might hear from your leadership team one thing, and then by the time you talk to the end users, you might hear something very different.
I think that's a great point.
So we've talked about value, but it's not some sort of big monolithic term. And it actually makes sense, and it's very helpful to start to break down into some of the key areas of value. And you alluded to some of this earlier, Biz, but let's dive down more deeply into some of the different areas of value.
So when we look at value at Citrix, we look at it from a reduction standpoint, from a growth standpoint. So earlier on, we talked about efficiency, and that's the reduction element in a business. We look at how does value equate to in terms of expense reduction and risk reduction. And then from a growth point, we look at effectiveness. Does what we're doing help to improve productivity and thereby improve margin or revenue in an organization? And how does what we're implementing impact some of the strategic elements? So competitive advantage, acquisitions, and things like that. Those are the 4 key elements of growth that we look at within any kind of value analysis that we do at Citrix.
Excellent, excellent. So let's put this all together for the audience. So we've just talked about some of the categories of value and the process and the audience. How does this come together? Let's bring it to life with an example of how these things come together.
Okay, so let's talk about firstly where we traditionally focus on, which is cost saving in IT operations and infrastructure. If you are an organization upwards and say your IT spend is around about $8 billion, and that would be a significant operations, then we can make an impact of 1 to 2%. So that would be in the region of 160 million to 360 million dollars worth of impact in terms of reducing IT costs. That's a percentage of the IT spend that I talk about by, moving things off data centers, reducing hardware licenses, and so on and so forth. That kind of impact, right? So we can make that kind of impact in that area. And then we move into the productivity element. How do we boost margin? And there we can have a bigger impact, right? So that impact will be between 2 to 5% of the total IT spend. And, for an $8 billion spend organization, which is a big organization, there it could be anywhere in the region of $360 million upwards through modernizing the workplace, giving users a new ways of working and a seamless way of working through using Citrix technology. And so those are the areas that are around impact on IT and impact on users. Then we can look at risk, and that's talking at how we minimize the impact of security breaches and technical debt element. And technical debt talks to about how do we move cost of from CapEx to OpEx. Many organizations are interested in that. So there is a level of impact that we can make there. Not as significant as the margin area that I talked about, but equal or slightly less than the cost saving in the IT area. Then ultimately we lead to strategic area. Does this allow the organization to expand its business and help with acquisition and competitive landscape? And there we can make a significant impact equal to that of the risk reduction area.
Excellent. That was a great run through, Biz. I appreciate it. So I just want to remind the audience, Biz, myself, we're going to be here for questions throughout, but now we're going to transition to the next part of our presentation. Thank you, Biz.
Thank you for inviting me, Chris.
I'm now joined by Barry O'Reilly. Hi, Barry. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi, Chris. My name is Barry O'Reilly. I'm the Group Product Manager for Workspace at Citrix.
Great. Thank you. So Biz and I just did a quick dive into value, and more specifically a framework about how Citrix thinks about value and how this can be applied to make stronger, more vivid visualizations of business impact of technology initiatives. Can you help put this in the context of Workspace to help bring us home?
Sure, Chris. So Workspace is our new strategic product direction at Citrix. Workspace addresses the use case of secure hybrid work for employees of an organization. Citrix Workspace transforms the employee experience by organizing, guiding, and automating work, resulting in better business outcomes through improved employee engagement. This means that Citrix is facing a change in its usual buyer. Those buyers aren't our classic IT buyers, but now are such people as VPs of operations, HR, or other line of business buyers. These people need to understand the value that a Citrix Workspace solution can bring to them. That is where the value engineering techniques you and Biz sketched here come into play. As we build out our Workspace offering and address more clearly those to whom Workspace brings real value, we will continue to provide the tools, methodology, and skills to help our customers articulate value and maintain line of sight to that value as we roll out your projects. Work is changing. As it changes, it needs better organization, guidance, and automation. Workspace is a Citrix product that delivers value to you by letting you and your employees do their best work. With value articulation, we can also explain and break down why.
Great. Thank you, Barry. And on behalf of Biz, a special thank you from all of us to our attendees. Please do reach out with any questions about what we shared here today and keep the conversation going. We're here to help. Thank you all again.